Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no copay. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that, but we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you. Oh my goodness, everyone. It's June already. What happened? This year's flying by. Before we know it's going to be the holidays again. So don't say I didn't warn you. We're in June, summertime, time to relax, have some fun. And so enjoy these episodes coming up. I want to thank my sponsors for sure. Keto Mojo, keto-mojo.com. They're my go-to for checking sugars and ketones. They're definitely indispensable. I mean, I use them all the time. And so my patients really benefit to know if they're actually in ketosis or not, especially people with seizure disorder or people really, really trying to get into this stuff. So the blood is the most accurate way to go. And Keto Mojo is doing a great job. Also, their website is outstanding. Tons of recipes and old talks that all of us have given. So if you're trying to learn more about metabolic health, that's a place to go. Also, of course, health code, gethealth.com, GETHLTH.com. Of course, they have their great shakes, vanilla and chocolate. I've been using them a lot with my seniors, especially trying to get some weight back on them or getting their muscle mass up and getting their sugars down. So hopefully we're going to be doing some studies in the near future to show the benefit in some of our most at-risk populations. And also they have berberine, which is something I've been pushing for a long time. Berberine's a great supplement to take to help improve insulin sensitivity and bring sugars down. So go check them out. And I'm so thankful for them sponsoring, and enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome back to the Low Carb MD podcast and Life's Best Medicine podcast. Unfortunately, Tro was tied up doing crazy work, saving the world and all that kind of stuff. So you're stuck with just me. But my guest is going to make it well worth your time. Doug Reynolds, welcome, man. Good to see you again.
Hey, Brian. Thanks, man.
Thanks for coming. I dragged you on because I want to hear about, first of all, tell people who don't know what the SMHP is.
So the SMHP is a non-profit organization that kind of was a spin-off from Low Carb USA. Really only because I'm the one that did it, but it was really Tro's brainchild. He started talking about it in Boca in 2020 in January, and he spoke to Pam about it apparently, but I wasn't aware of that conversation. But I saw him talking about it on Twitter, like in February-ish. And I wrote to him and I said, Tro, like, I'm already trying to do something like that with a professional membership or, thing in Low Carb USA, and it hasn't really been taken off. Maybe we can just talk about why we think that is and fix it. And so we went backwards and forwards and eventually kind of came to the agreement that we needed to have a proper non-profit organization that represents the practitioners in this space that want to do that. We have these crappy organizations like the ADA and the AMA and all these other things. But there isn't really, there wasn't an organization for all our metabolic health practitioners to belong to. And so we decided to do it. And I started looking into it, and then COVID hit. And Pam calls it my COVID baby, but it was like right through until December of 2020, sorry. that we built this thing. And, you know, we had to deal with the governmental organizations. You're trying to establish a 501c3 and you're trying to get tax IDs and all of this kind of stuff. And it was COVID. And these people, they were still functioning, but they were all like everybody else that was working from home. And so it was even slower than working with the government normally was. But
If you can
it
imagine
did
that.
happen. I was surprised. I thought it was just nothing was going to happen until COVID was over, you know, whenever that was going to be. But it did happen. And so we finally launched it in December of 2020. And one of I think the best things that we've done, um, that we established already from the beginning, was this concept of accreditation. So we created or defined these different pathways that people could become accredited, use metabolic health practitioner or MHP behind their names, and actually practice as you know, metabolic medicine. That was like our vision. And there's a training pathway where they can just do a bunch of different modules that we actually utilize, the modules that the Nutrition Network produce. We use a subset of those. But there's other ways. If you do this in your practice and you've been doing it for a long time, you know, we kind of joke about it and say, well, if Steve Finney said he wanted to become an MHP, we couldn't tell him, okay, well, you have to do all of these courses now in order to do that. So in his case, you would be able to write an essay explaining what he does in his practice and some cases that he's had that have been successful and some that he's maybe struggled with. And then, you know, and then that's a way that he could get accredited. But most of the people up till now have done it through the education pathway.
Yeah, I just got certified not too long ago. So for people who
Yeah,
are like wondering what we're talking about, it's the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners. So we figured we needed a baseline of education of knowing, like, if I'm going to send someone to a trainer or a nutritionist, I want to make sure they know what they're talking about. Because the most frustrating thing for people listening is when you get three different opinions and three different, pathways to get healthier. So to have people who are on the same page, and you have to have a standard where you say, okay, this is the proper way to do it. Because if you look at social media, you see all these crazy ideas that people have that have nothing to do with what we're talking about. So it does all come back to this metabolic health. And now it's kind of branched out more into mental health for, disease prevention, for, infectious disease prevention or survival, all these other areas where we have experts from all over and all different disciplines coming together and saying, hey, we can all work together as a team to really help that patient.
yeah. So you know, when we launched, we already had that in place. And it was one of those things like and I've done so many businesses and stuff through my years that have just been total disaster. You know, I've put so much work into building it, probably too much before really finding out what people actually wanted. And turns out what I thought was a brilliant idea, many other people didn't. And so it didn't come off. So with this, it was the same thing. Like we built this, but we still didn't know how it was going to be received. But once we put it out there, it was just this amazing response. You know, we're getting very close now to actually accrediting our 100th person since we started a couple of years ago. And then there's a whole ton of people in the pipeline somewhere, either writing their essays or doing the different courses that they're required to do to get there. So that's been hugely successful, I think. And then, things have been added since then. One of the biggest things is very recently um, we launched a journal, Journal for Metabolic Health. And the idea with that is that there's now it's free for members of the SMHP to actually publish in in that journal. There's a fee to outside people if they want to publish. Um, we've got one of the ladies there that's a professor at like 3 different universities, and she one of the things she does there is run journal clubs for the students, teaching them how to write papers. So now she's busy creating a course like that now. She's got like a plan of 10 different videos, training videos, teaching people how to go from the very beginning where you come up with an idea and how to formulate a concept, that you think can eventually be publishable. And then how to collect the data and how to enter it. And I'll come back to that, how to enter it into a database of some kind, how to analyze it, and finally, how to produce a manuscript that you can submit for publication. Because Brian, we've got so many doctors like you out there who have all these thousands of cases now. And clinical trials are very, very difficult to do properly. And I see a lot of the rubbish, junk science that are trying to show that keto, high carbohydrate reduction is not a thing or doesn't work. But even the ones that are, there's confirmation bias there too, and they can, it's
Well, we're
really
finding
difficult.
that we
And
found
it
that
takes
there's
20, 30 years for a lot of these things to manifest themselves. So how do you run a clinical trial for 30 years?
and a lot of
You,
money, unless it's sponsored by pharma, they have tons of money to run
yeah, but
studies.
even
That yeah,
even sponsored by pharma, try and imagine keeping people like okay, so you're going to say these guys are on the reduced carbohydrate diet, however you want to frame that, and these guys are on the placebo or the SAD
standard
diet.
American diet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but how do you ensure that those people stuck to that diet for 30 years? You, you just can't.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It takes
You
a lot of
just
time, and
can't.
that's
And
like
so,
people's health. They don't have time. If you're struggling
mm,
with type 2 diabetes with complications, you don't have time to wait 30 years for a study to come out.
no.
That's a
And
hard
so
part about it.
So there are things like look at diabetes reversals and stuff. I mean, you can show very quickly how people respond to that in terms of reversing their diabetes and things. Not about diabetes manifesting itself in the first place, but at least in slowing it down or reversing it, which happens so often.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's what's so amazing about the low carb USA meetings is that you have people from around the world that go, here's my story, and here's my pictures, here's my A1C, here are my laboratories, and you
yeah,
could see how they've responded so quickly, and they
right.
made these changes, and so it's one of those things. Do you really need randomized, controlled, blind studies when you have so much clinical
Right.
data?
So
And I think that's what
that's
we've
Yeah, sorry, but I mean, that's our hope, is that if we can publish enough of this data, then it becomes enough of a way to basically oblige people uh, to take a look at it. You know what I'm saying? So they can look at it honestly and decide, okay, this is rubbish, I'm not going to do it, but at least take a look at it. And I think the majority of people will see that it's an intervention that most doctors, I believe, should be offering to their patients at least as an option, and describe the pros and cons of both or the many options fairly, and then let the patient decide. At the end of the day, it's the patient's choice. Uh, so
at least
yeah,
be given the information. Then you say, I don't want to do that or do, and that's the tragic part. Some of the people we've interviewed, um, on the podcast with, for instance, they have a child struggling with seizure disorder, having seizures 6 times a day, 12 times a day. And the doctors say, well, we thought ketogenic diet was too restrictive, so we didn't offer it. It's like, well, at least let me offer it, you know. The Reynolds family, coming to mind, it's like no one even offered it to them. I said, this is a possibility, it may be tough, but you could probably, he goes, having a kid having seizure 12 times a day and
yeah,
urinating themselves and going through all this, that's not restrictive. Are you kidding me? And then
right.
they changed the lifestyle for this kid, and he's doing fan. He's the captain of his soccer team now, a football team. If you're European, yeah. So it's amazing, and you go, gosh, how much do you, how can people not offer something that you know is beneficial? So that transitions us over to the, the low carb USA meeting that's coming up in San Diego. That's what I want to know about it. I want people to know about it. So who's speaking? What is so great about having these meetings?
Well, we've just come back from the UK where we actually represented the SMHP at their expo of the Public Health Collaboration, the PHC. They had their big meeting there, an annual meeting, and they had quite a heavy focus on mental health. And what we've done since Tro started it last year, I think, in Boca, where he asked if we could do an entire focus day on food addiction. So we did that, and it actually turned out really well. And so we've left that concept in. So each meeting, we try and focus on, like, have a day specifically focused on a particular condition. We did cancer in San Diego last year. We did type 1 diabetes in Boca this year in January, which was just amazing. And now we have the focus this year in August, a couple of months, on mental health as well. So that's our focus day. And so working with Brett Scher, he's a cardiologist that you're familiar with. He's also from San Diego originally, and he's now the CEO, I think, of the
Metabolic Mind.
Metabolic Mind, right? Which is basically funded by the Bazuki Foundation, and their whole focus on trying to make people aware of how effective the ketogenic diet can be in the mental health field. And I mean, for people who don't know, Matt Bazuki so the Bazukis are very, very wealthy people.
And people listening, you're going to hear that because I'm interviewing them today, as a matter of fact, and it's going to run on Low Carb MD and Life's Best Medicine
Right.
because
So
it's that
they're
important.
very wealthy, and their son, while he was at college, started to develop the bipolar condition, and it got really, really bad. And they had a bunch of money that they could try to utilize to help him, and they couldn't. And at one point, he was living on the street, and for everything that they could throw at it, they couldn't help him until they met somehow. I don't know the backstory for that part of it, but I know that they came into contact with Chris Palmer, and he told him about how he felt that this could help, this lifestyle change could help. And I don't know the story about how they got him to actually agree to do it, but he did, and completely, turned around 180 degrees. Like, the condition doesn't exist for him anymore. And he's a brilliant functioning member of society again. And I think they saw this and thought, okay, now we need to, like I started Low Carb USA thinking, I found out about this so late in life, how did I not know? The same thing with them. It's like, how is it that people don't know that this is a possible option for people that are sick like that?
Yeah, and people don't realize it. As a matter of fact, just just as a reminiscing here a little bit. When Tro and I first started the podcast, episode 13, we talked about, addiction and depression getting better. We were seeing it clinically. So I didn't need a randomized controlled trial to tell me what I'm seeing. So I was seeing my patients say, we're treating you for diabetes, but all of a sudden their mood gets better. Just today, Chris Palmer posted a journal article about metformin helping with the manic phase of bipolar disorder. Because if you lower the insulin, you lower the inflammation, the brain seems to function a lot better. You take out the processed food and the sugar, the brain functions better. If we're talking about, Alzheimer's disease, all these different disease processes, for us, we're looking at this big picture. And for what they're talking about and what you're talking about is that we have a pandemic of mental illness and depression, anxiety, stress, and all these things that we've never dealt with as a society. And we're seeing it on the front lines. And to see you working so hard, to get the science out there and getting people to speak and focus on it, because if we don't fix the mental health problem, all the rest of the stuff is not going to get better.
Yeah. So I've been working with Brett on, working out what would be the best way to make that day go in terms of the speakers and stuff um, that we've got. So there's some pretty amazing speakers, and like Laurie Calabrese they've just recently published a paper about the help of this with anxiety and depression. And there's going to be some amazing talks on that first day. But on top of that, we've got now the rest of the 3 days is like the regular meetings that we've had previously. But we've got um, Rob Sivers and Gary Taubes is coming back again. Paul Mason is coming out from Australia.
Yeah, he's great.
Um,
He's an amazing guy.
yeah, so we've got
And Rob
Anthony
is
Chapley and
always,
Matt Phillips, you, Jay Wortman, Mike Eads, Dimitris Tsoukalas, who he's coming to speak about metabolomics, which is something that I heard about very recently, and a couple of people are talking a lot about it. And I don't know. I don't know. For me, the jury's still out about it, but he's one of the leading experts on this. So I feel like it'll be a good thing for people to hear about his perspective. And
yeah, and Dr. Phillips is doing amazing work with dementia, Parkinson's, you name
right,
it, you know, from
yeah.
a neurologic standpoint as a neurologist, and he's a very great guy too, and humble and a really great scientist.
And I'm thinking that next year's um, focus day will probably be on neurological conditions. Um, in January in Boca coming up, it's actually going to be women's health, which I'm excited about. I think that's going to be pretty brilliant. But we have Rashni Sangani coming out from India. She's just amazing. For those of you who are members of the SMHP, you'd be familiar with the fact that once a month we have these grand rounds talks on a Saturday where um, we invite speakers in to talk about something. What's really nice about that is the Q&A afterwards is not like me being the mic Nazi like I am at our meetings to try and get people through. But here there's time for discussions and long questions and multiple questions. And you so some of you would be familiar with, if you're members of the SMHP, is this thing that we have a grand rounds talk once a month where we bring speakers in to talk about a particular subject, and then we can have an extensive Q&A/discussion afterwards. Unlike with the events where we have to screen people through because there's only 15 minutes for questions and we have to get a bunch of people to have their turn. Here it turns into some amazing discussions. I remember with Amy Berger, she did like a 55-minute talk, but our entire session was over 3 hours. So, we went for over 2 hours just talking about this whole subject that she was brought there to talk about. But Rashni basically did one recently that it was just it made me realize that I'd made a good decision inviting her to come and speak in San Diego, because just the way that she presents stuff and the time and effort that she puts into her slides to make them meaningful and useful is just, I'm hoping to maybe get her to do a course to teach some other speakers how to really do a good talk, because it was pretty amazing. So I'm looking forward to that. Dom D'Agostino is back again. Dave Feltman's back again. So we got just an amazing lineup this year. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so Dom D'Agostino, he's worked with the Navy SEALs. He's done tons of work on ketones, exogenous ketones, the benefits, things like that. Dave Feldman, of course, is leading the way with cholesterol, looking at like what are our big risk factors. A lot of us docs worry more about numbers than we do of physiology, and so there's a lot of education that could be done. So he's kind of tilting the world of the high cholesterol LDL model and saying, hey, look, let's look at it as an energy model. So all these speakers all have fantastic research they're doing, and it's science heavy, but there's a lot of the important thing about being there, and I'll say I just got back from the low carb cruise. Some of the most valuable time was just talking to people and hearing their stories, what they did, what worked for them, and realizing it's not a cult where we all have to do the same thing. Some people will be more meat heavy, some people may be more plant heavy, but we all agree on getting rid of processed foods, watching stress, getting your sleep, all these other factors that we don't talk about enough in medicine. Now you have an 8-minute appointment with your doctor and you don't even think about these. They don't even, it's not even they don't have time to discuss these things. So that's why having these kind of meetings where you can sit down, talk to world experts. So if you have questions about cholesterol, you could ask Dave Feldman, or you could ask, Dom D'Agostino about neurologic deficits, and after a stroke, what happens if you take ketones or you cut out the sugar. So it's so amazing just to sit and talk to people. I learn a lot from other speakers, but I learn probably even more from attendees who've done great things that they're never going to see the stage, but they can really, really impact their communities.
Yeah, I think that was the reason that I brought up the PhD meeting in the beginning was just that we ended up having the same discussions there that we have at our meetings, like talking about like the people that are there, like this is so brilliant to actually be here, but it's really hard to put into words what it is that makes it so special compared to being on the live stream. I mean, yes, live stream is a great way to at least get access to the talks and stuff if you are unable to make it for whatever reason. But if there's any way that you can get there and be there in person, it is the atmosphere and the vibe and sitting. I mean, we spend a lot of time with the chef at the hotel to make sure that we come up with really good low carb dinners. Uh, and so you can
And so
sit
you're
around
not the
those
outlier there. It's normal. Like everyone's having heavy cream in their coffee. They're not having all the other garbage and all that. And so they just know already when you get up there, are you part of the group? Here you go. Like here's the coffee you're gonna want, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, even the coffee bar that they have in the hotel in the one in San Diego, they stock up huge quantities of heavy cream specifically because they know that for 4 days, and they either side as well for people that come in early. Um, Almost everybody now, because we take up most of the hotel, so almost everybody that comes through there is going to be asking for heavy cream. So they make sure that they stocked up on it. Uh, yeah, and but as just going back to the dinners, the thing is that you can sit out there. It's summer in San Diego. It's just starts to get dark towards the end of the dinner if you sit around and chat a bit afterwards. Um, and the conversations that go on around those dining room, yeah, restaurant tables is just amazing. Um, and that's what to try to describe to somebody what it is about this that makes it so desirable to be there if you can be. Um, it's just hard to put into words. I've never really managed to do a good job of that.
Yeah, it's amazing because when you have Dom D'Agostino, debating something with Rob Sivas, and their perspectives and clinical experience, and you have the other thing I love about these meetings is that we have clinicians who are seeing patients every day and other people who are doing the more theoretical part of it, and we can all learn from each other, because
Yeah.
if we don't implement what they're doing, their research is useless. Like Ben Bickman, as an example, a lot of his stuff we're talking about and using now he did it from a lab in Utah. Now, there's doctors in the UK using it, or in the Philippines, or wherever it might be. It's
Mhm.
pretty amazing when we start learning from each other and seeing what the science shows and applying that to real life. It's amazing.
Yeah. So uh, I don't know if you want to mention it. I think we've set up a special code for you guys. Low carb MD, LOWCARB MD, and that gives people a 20% discount off their cart. So if they choose to come and attend the low carb dinners. And there's even at San Diego, which is different to the other places, there's even a carnivore option. So there's a regular low carb dinner and a carnivore option, which is more expensive, but it's you get a massive steak, so that's pretty cool. Um, so if you choose to attend the dinners, and or you choose to apply for the CME certificate, the cost of those get all added together with your ticket price, and the 20% comes off the entire amount. Pam keeps getting cross with me because, like she says, like it should just be off the ticket price. But if I'm totally honest, it's just easier to implement this way. Um, and
Yeah, it's
so,
more expensive for you, but it's helpful for people, and then
yeah,
they're
and
more
it
likely to
it
go.
does give, especially the people that want to attend the dinners, because the hotels used to give us pretty reasonable pricing, I felt, for these dinners back in the day. But coming back from COVID, they keep claiming that prices have gone up exorbitantly because of COVID and everything. Everybody's just blaming COVID for everything. Um, and the pricing is hectic. I mean, even with the carnivores, like we literally can't charge everybody what they charge us because it's just outrageous. And so we charge a lot of money, but know that it's a lot less than we're paying for it.
Yeah, plus you
Um,
get group rates on the rooms and all those things that really helps people out too. So you're not it's not like you're
right,
going on
and
your own. And
that's another thing. We I think there's like another month or so that the group booking rate is available. I think it's fairly early in July that that the cutoff is, so that after that you pay full price, and it's basically double. Um, you're paying over $400 a night for a hotel, unless you get it on Expedia or something like that. You might be able to find some kind of bargain rate, but if you want to guarantee it, then booking in the next month is kind of important.
yeah, and I would say just plan it and say, okay, I'm doing it, and then pull the trigger early because everything's cheaper if you do it earlier, so the last minute stuff where you pay more, and so yeah, and plus the hassles of finding a hotel. I've been in that situation before, and you're like, well, how close can I be? But the other thing and I don't know if you're doing it this time, but one of the greatest things is when they do the low carb wine tasting, between the meetings after being sitting in meetings all day and just being able to socialize and talk to people. And they always have vendors there. You can look for things that you like, and also poster presentations where you can talk to experts, and they present their paper and they're so excited to talk about it, their hard work they put in.
Yeah, you mentioned the wine. So Dry Farm Wines is definitely will be back, but we're also having a group that came to us. I think they were at the Metabolic Health Summit in January. Um, but they're called Dapper Barons, and they actually do low sugar and liqueurs and sugar-free cocktails. And the guy explained it to me. He said, like, um, a law apparently that if you're going to call something a liqueur, it has to have a certain amount of sugar in it. Otherwise, you cannot call it a liqueur. But they wanted to call these things liqueurs, so they do have like a teaspoonful of sugar in this liqueur, but he he showed me like a 750 ml bottle, and he showed me like it was 2/3 of the way full of white sugar. And he said, when you get a regular bottle of liqueur, that's how much sugar
Yeah, people don't
is
realize that. They're
actually in
like,
it.
oh,
They don't
I'm not,
realize it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
mind-boggling. But then when you come to the cocktails is a mixture of different liqueurs and stuff, and the cocktail is not a liqueur. And so they can genuinely make those sugar-free. So they've got a few different options for the ready mixed cocktails, and then they have a couple of these low sugar liqueurs as well. And so they are going to be there as well. So that'll be a chance for people to try stuff out. It's always nice if you're not super strict or you're not super sick, and alcohol is not something that is a problem. Then it's a lot of people have actually stopped doing keto because they had to stop drinking their beer or stop drinking their wine or
Yeah, I think that's
whatever.
for a lot of people, that's the barrier. A lot of people, the first time I meet with them, they go, "Is alcohol going to be a deal breaker? Is this going to be a deal breaker? If I have a
Yeah,
piece of bread every once in a while." So if we can make it the healthiest as possible, I know it's controversial. A lot of people are talking about dirty keto. If you go, well, if everyone's having a birthday party and you can bring, like, I'm going to a friend's house tonight, or yeah, tonight, and it's my wife's birthday, so they're gonna have cake. So I go, oh, I'll just bring a keto option. So I mix my health code up with something, and I can take that and I'll have that, and I don't feel like I'm
right.
missing out. But I don't do it every day. You kind of figure out what works for you. And obviously, if you don't drink, we don't condone you start drinking. But for people who say, I enjoy having a glass of wine every once in a while, well, let's make it the healthiest way possible if that makes your life complete, right?
Yeah. And I mean, Rob Sivers talks about this as well. Like he talks about um, sugar-free or sweeteners, right? And if you have to drink a Coke Zero or something with an artificial sweetener in it instead of drinking the real Coke, then to him, it's just like a no-brainer. There's like it's it's not even a discussion. Of course, you should have the sugar-free one. Can you try and wean yourself off eventually and not have them at all? Yes, possibly, but it's not.
Yeah, but for a lot of people,
If
that's a
it's going
deal
to
breaker.
make you drop off the program because you can't do it, then you need to do it. But
Yeah, yeah.
then
And then
he
look at
gets
sparkling
very
water with lime and all these other things we can do too. Like it's a transition a lot of times. Like you don't just, like just like when people quit heroin, they go to methadone, then they go to the next thing and the next thing until they can finally wean off of everything.
yeah. But he also then starts talking about the other keto things like keto breads and like Pam does a really nice sugar-free uh, uh, cheesecake, and he actually is got quite vociferous about not doing those things because they and he's got experience with it that I don't have with being really addicted to carbs and sugar, but he's saying that these things will get you off the track. But
Yeah,
I
they'll
kind
lead
of
you
have
back down that road.
I
Yeah, it just
disagree with him
depends.
there because I feel like the same thing with his thing about Coke Zero is like if you can eat this sugar-free cheesecake that Pam makes with like an almond crust that has a few carbs in the almond crust, um, if you can have that instead of the full sugar version of it, then have at it. If you are a really bad addict like Rob is, and you genuinely can't do that, and you know it about yourself, then for those people, they need to abstain maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree
But
100%. I
for
think
the most of us,
it's individualized, right?
yeah, and like you
Because
said, like we don't do
yeah.
it all the time, but it's nice now and again to be able to have something, And we have people around as well.
Yeah, I think, and that's what there's people who, they have one low carb treat and they can't stop and they want cookies and donuts all night. So yeah, yeah, when
Right.
that sugar,
Yeah.
and we all learn that for ourselves by experience. And for us, we use the continuous glucose monitor because that tells us, like, all of a sudden you see like
Yeah.
all these sugars going crazy. You go, okay, we got to rein this in. You're not the person who can, just like anything. There's some people who quit alcohol and they have a drink every once in a while and they're fine and someone monitors them. But other people have one drink and they end up in the gutter. So we have to learn that's individualized and we all learn for ourselves. Rob happens to be more on the addictive side. So for him, it leads them down the path. Other people have pizza one night, then the next day they're back at the gym and they're eating low carb again. So
Right.
it happens where we all learn for ourselves what happened, how we're affected, and how much we can get away with. I have some people that for them it's zero tolerance. They go, look, I don't taste anything sweet. That's why when people go carnivore, a lot of times it's easy because there's nothing sweet on the carnivore diet, so they don't get that trigger of wanting to go back. But other people say, they'll have their low carb desserts. I have one guy who has dessert every night. He just has half a portion, and he's maintained his weight and insulin, sugars, and everything are great. He's very active and fit too, but that's something he enjoys in life. So at some point, we say, what works for you? What's the best option? Obviously,
Yeah.
there's ideal and then there's real life, right?
Totally. And I think, it took me a few years to kind of acknowledge that it wasn't simple like I found it to be, and just drop everything and whatever. But then when I say like I found it to be, we still used to make these. We used to get sugar-free Jello and mix it up with heavy cream or half and half, and section it out, especially if it was the half and half, because there's still some carbs in that. And Pam and I used to basically like quarter this little bowl of this mixed up Jello and dish out like one quarter each for that dinner, and have the other bit the next day. But that was like a sweet treat or something that made the whole transition kind of more fun and everything. And who knows
Yeah,
if
it
we
shouldn't be
didn't
torture. That's the
if
bottom line. It shouldn't be
yeah, if we
torture and
hadn't
miserable,
done
and you
that,
got to enjoy your life, you know?
maybe we wouldn't have stuck to it. If there hadn't been those little things, that worked for me.
Yeah,
And
because some people
uh,
it's all or none. Like if I can't have like a piece of low carb bread sometimes, forget it, I'm not doing it, you know? So, there's a lot to that. And I think there's a lot of like hopefully I'll be talking about these kind of things like what are what are the markers that keep us on a program? How do we stick with that? Because we all know this science is just how do I apply that in my life and make it a day in and day out thing, right? Where it's something that's sustainable, not something where you sprint and then you get exhausted and you quit. You work out really hard one time, you pull your muscle, go, okay, I'm not going to work out for 6 months. You're better off just going slow and working out every day and doing a little something, right? So it's
yeah,
all these things that we're learning. That's why it's so great to go to these conferences and have experts who have tons of clinical experience, like Rob Sivis and, myself and other people out there who say, this is what I see every day. I know what I'm seeing. And so it's great to bring that with the science that's confirming those things that we're seeing, which is nice. Not that we're just, biased in what we're saying, basically. It's like what
yeah,
worse than doesn't. Ultimately, we all want to be healthier. It's like, what are the best options to get there? And within the low carb community, there's different thoughts on if you need more protein or more fat or more bacon or
yeah.
less bacon or not processed meat. And they go, okay, let me weigh the evidence, which is great when you're there. And the other thing is some people get a little confused because they say, wait, this person said eat more protein. This person said, and then we can have a discussion about that, and it's a great time and we can have patients say, hey, here's what works for me, here's what doesn't, no matter what the experts are saying. So it's such a great mix of people that where you have the scientists there, you have the practitioners there, and you have the common people who are trying to make their life better, and some of the best questions come from the audience.
Yeah.
So what's the discount code for people who want to go, and what are the dates so they can block
All
out?
right. So the dates is August 15 to 18. It's a Thursday to the Sunday. And so if you go to lowcarbusa.org, not .com, and then you go down to the events drop down, you'll see the top one there is a Symposium for Metabolic Health, San Diego 2024. So you go in there, you can see all the speakers, including Brian. And then just above the list of speakers, there's a bunch of little buttons there where you can order your ticket and book your ticket. You can look at the speaker schedule, which I'm still working on. So if you look at it on Monday, it might not be finished, but it will be in a day or two. There's stuff about the poster presentations, and then how to book your hotel room. So you just go and click on the live stream ticket or the in-person ticket and follow those instructions. If you're not a member, you need to sign up as a free member of Low Carb USA. And the reason for that is that all those people, not only the live stream people, but all the people that attend in person, get access to all the videos afterwards. And in order to access those videos, you need to be able to log into your account on Low Carb USA. So we kind of force people to join first and then book their ticket, because we tried it the other way and assigning them a username and a password that they could change. But it didn't work because so many people didn't open that email, didn't see it. And then our support, like the day before the event, got completely swamped because people didn't know how to get into their account.
Yeah, and
So
that's the other thing too is that's so great about is that they have the live stream at the same time. So if you want to go sit in the sun and listen to a lecture, you can do that. If you don't want to be in there, and you can go in for the
sure,
question
if
and answer.
you're even there, correct.
Yeah.
You can go and log into your account and get the live stream and
Yeah,
listen
there was one
to,
where Tro
yeah.
in Boca, I think Tro got tied up. He might have had COVID. He couldn't come in, so he was doing a live stream. And I was in the gym working out while I'm listening to Tro. So I'm like, I'm getting my workout in. I'm listening to Tro. I'm not missing anything. So there's a lot of options like that that you can do where you're not stuck inside all day if you don't want to be. But a lot of people choose. I choose to be inside all the time because I'm sitting next to Peter Ballerstedt and all these great people that I love to be around, and Ben Bikikio. So it's just such a great experience. So if you have a chance, I would highly recommend it. They're my favorite times of the year. Going to the conferences, we all get recharged. We get to see, meet people and see how they're benefiting. So if you can make
Okay.
it, do it.
So yeah, so this just I did mention it a bit earlier, but just to reiterate again, once you go to actually purchase your ticket, there's an option there to fill in a code for discount. It'll be Summer Savings or May Mayhem or something like that. That's kind of running at the moment, but that only gets people 15 or 10%. And if they put in low carb MD, so only the people that are listening to this podcast basically will know that. Or if you guys put it out on your newsletters or whatever, that as well. But exclusively to the people that follow you, if they hear of it from you, they can use low carb MD and get 20% off.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
Okay.
So Doug, I got to ask you, I got to put you on the spot for a minute. I've
No
asked you
problem.
this before, and it's okay if your answer changes. What's life's best medicine for you? What keeps you going? Where do you get your motivation to put on these conferences? Where do you go when things are hard? All those kind of things.
So life's best medicine. I mean, I think we spoke about it so many times with these different people that we were visiting while we were in the UK. It was just hearing stories from people about how much what we do has changed their lives, saved their lives or their sons' lives or their partners' lives, or just how much better their lives are because of it. That keeps me up, getting up in the morning.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing. Just your story, overcoming, head trauma and then where you're at now and life
yeah,
and,
and just the
pretty
fact that I
amazing.
mean, I still struggle. I haven't forgotten what I was talking about while I was talking to you here, which is cool. But it does happen still. So I'm not, it hasn't fixed me, but it's improved a lot. And I also am not afraid of it anymore. I used to be terrified to speak in public and that sort of stuff. I would have refused basically because I would be scared of getting stuck and forgetting completely what I was even talking about. Um, But Georgia Ede was the one that actually made me realize that this helps with anxiety and stuff for one thing, and um, this community is so amazing as well. So I'm also not that afraid of getting up on the stage and talking anymore because of that. And I just I just I'm okay with it, and it's happened now. I've actually literally forgotten what I was saying standing on the stage. The last time was my closing talk in Boca. Have you got a couple of minutes? Can I tell the story?
Yeah, sure.
Because and it goes back. I think some my whole theme through the meeting is based on this talk by Admiral McCraven about what starts here changes the world.
Hmm.
And he has all of these different stories
Make your bed, wake up, make your bed, do
right
these things,
and do
these
these
little things that
things.
make a big difference.
Yeah. So that's you asked what I turn to when when I'm down, when I get knocked down, I go and listen to that talk because it makes just it no matter how many times I've listened to it, it gets me back up on my feet again. It's the most inspiring thing I've ever listened to. So I was talking and so I told a couple of his stories like through my closing talk, and the the last thing I do is run through the 10 lessons, and I just run through them and finish my talk. And that's the only thing that I have on the monitor, the confidence monitor that they have down at my feet, is just to get through those 10 things. The rest of the talk, I know roughly what I want to talk about. If I forget something, it's okay. But I was standing right on the edge of the stage because a long story, but all our volunteers were sitting in the chairs that were on the stage from the last panel. which they weren't supposed to be, and they were sitting right close to the front, so I couldn't get down and stand in front of them in the front of the stage. But standing on the side, I couldn't see the monitor. And I've done that same talk about 6 times, and I've never had to look at the monitor. And this one time I got, and so as you go home, and it was just like, I went blank. And I was looking and I couldn't see the damn monitor. And it was like a few, I've listened back to it. It was a few seconds. It was like an
But it seemed
ugly
like
pause.
20 minutes when you're up there.
It felt like 20 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
But then what happened was that the people like felt sorry for me, so they started clapping. And I put my hand up and I said, "No, wait!" As I was still, my brain was doing this, and I was trying to catch up. And I think what I did was actually step forward a bit, and I could see it, and I got that first, and then I was off, and I
Yeah,
was
once you
able
got the first one on, then
I
you
was able
know the
to
rest of
finish
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, and even that, I got through the last one, and I was literally about to say my last sentence, and I shifted my weight, and my foot slipped off the side of the stage, and I nearly fell off the stage. So Pam reached out. She was on the chair nearest to me. She reached out to grab me, and I thought if I fell at this stage, I would have just like run out and not actually come back.
Yeah, we all think
It was
about those
such
things.
a disaster.
Such
But you know
disasters can
what? I
happen,
laugh about it now, and even afterwards, talking to people the next day, and that I could laugh about it. And in my old self would never have been able to do that. I would have, yeah, I would be finished.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing that you get your grounding back. So, hey, everyone listening, this is important stuff. Be part of the community. Come out. I mean, it's amazing. Doug puts a. I mean, I would never, ever, ever, and you could quote me on this. Do what Doug does. It's so stressful. You got stuff like COVID. You got these books, these rooms booked. You got speakers coming out. You got flights. You got all these crazy things you got to manage, and there's a lot of missing variables that you don't know that can go wrong. And so it takes a lot of personal risk doing these things, and bring in knucklehead speakers like me that may say crazy stuff up there, and but he does such a great job of vetting people and making sure that these talks are solid and worthwhile for you, because that's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish. And so be part of the community. It's so great to be around everyone. I'm telling you from personal experience, just seeing that everyone's eating the same way you are. You don't have to explain anything and go, okay, this is why I'm not eating the bread or the French fries or whatever. And just seeing other people and being inspired by other people's journeys, or inspiring other people who are like way behind you in the journey. And we can't judge and know where people are just by looking at them, because some stories, like, you can't believe what they've already accomplished, and they may still be struggling, but they're way ahead of where they were. And so I would say be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and find your community, find things, educate yourself, get out there and make yourself better. And I think there's no better way than attending a conference like this. So that's why I thought it was important, Tro, and I thought it was really important to have Doug on to let you know what's happening. And I'm very fortunate to be able to speak. And but thank you for your continued support. Thanks for listening. But go to the conference if you can make it. We got the discount code for you. And Doug, any parting words?
no, come if you can. Come in person if you can. Because
Yeah, and if you
I
can't, then
promise you,
do
I'm
the
sorry
online.
that I can't come. I can't find the words to describe sufficiently how much more amazing it is to be there in person. But I know there's timing, there's finances, there's all sorts of things that make it impossible for some people to attend in person, and we understand that. But if there's any way you can make it work, like really, it's worth it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, like having the live stream, that once you go, or if you do it online, 2 months later you can go, I want to hear that talk by Rob Sivas again, really double check that. I want to look at the numbers and or check the references, things like that. So it's great to have that resource that you can go back in. So you don't have to take notes like while the person's speaking. You can wait and do it afterwards. As a matter of fact, Doug will yell at you if you take pictures during the event, because those are all the slides and all the talks, everything is given to you afterwards. So you don't have to stress about it. You could be there and just kind of enjoy the moment and listen, and then go back and research the stuff or write down the stuff later. I find that very valuable. And so, Doug, thanks for joining me, man. Greatly appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, bro.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.